Now I want to remind everyone of the House of Mouse rules. No smoking, no villainous schemes, and no guests eating other guests.
Hello. Mickey Mouse Pop Final. I still need to get a mini Pop Final to go with him, so he's not lonely. As you can tell by the title of the video, this is going to be me talking about House of Mouse, just like kind of how awesome it was and why I think it should be on Disney Plus. Although, for all I know, by the time this video goes up, which will be on the 4th of July, maybe it'll be on Disney Plus. But it hasn't yet, so we'll see. So you got Mickey. Yay, Mickey. Can't really see Mickey if I put him in the background, so I'll just sit over here on the desk. Okay, so those of you that have been watching my channel for a while, particularly when I was doing a lot of the Disney reviews for the different Disney movies, will remember that I kept bringing up the House of Mouse every now and then. Now, Mickey's House of Mouse was this animated TV series that they had that ran from 2001 to 2003 on just Walt Disney Television on like Disney Channel or whatever. And the whole concept of the show was Mickey, along with like his gang of like Minnie and Donald and Daisy and Goofy and Pluto, and then like Max was there as well, that they owned this nightclub, and like Mickey was like the host of the nightclub, and cartoons, different tunes from like Disney movies, villains and the heroes and like background characters and like stuff from like Disney cartoons would show up at the House of Mouse, and that they would watch like old cartoons or newer cartoons, that they would just, relax and talk with each other. It was just funny ways of getting different like interactions from different Disney characters. And, like, Mickey was, the host and, like, the main owner of it. And, like, Donald and Goofy were, like, his co-owners. Minnie was, like, running everything behind the scenes, like, the backstage manager and everything, which she was really good at. Donald was, like, the greeter at the entrance to the club. Daisy was kind of, like, the hostess, making sure that everybody had their reservations and everything like that. Goofy was, like, the head waiter, which is just funny. Max was like the valet, so he would like park everybody's cars. Pluto was just kind of like running around being like the errand boy within the show. And we also had like Huey, Dewey, and Louie there as like the Backstreet Boys that were like the Quack Street Boys and like all this other stuff. And it was just this really fun way of doing the series. And like it was just this whole concept that it was kind of, the way that it's kind of described is that it was this like successor to the short-lived Mickey Mouse Works, which was just this, an earlier, program where they had different original cartoons featuring Mickey and his friends. I talked about one of these before. It was the Mickey's Nutcracker one, which I talked about when I did some of the different when I did like the Nutcracker video, and then when I talked about Mickey's snowed in at the House of Mouse. Which I will talk about shortly in a minute. So it was just like all these different shorts that they had made, and then like they used them in the show as being like other shorts that they showed in the show. Like some of them, like I remember there was like a running one that was like Mickey, Donald, and Goofy were like these locksmiths or like these different, part-time jobs or like temp agency type jobs, so they would just like go to all these different jobs that they would get called to do, which was just funny. And, we just get all this funny interactions between, like, the different characters, the Disney canon characters, the princesses, the villains, all this fun stuff. There was 2 movies that came out of it. One of them was Mickey's Magical Christmas, known at the House of Mouse, which I did a review. And I believe at the moment is actually my highest viewed video at the moment. With, like, I think it's, like, at 2,000 or just over 2,000 views at the moment that this is being recorded. And then the other one was Mickey's House of Villains, which was this concept of like it's Halloween and like the villains like make a deal with Pete to allow them to like take over the House of Mouse, because Pete was the kind of the landlord of the House of Mouse, and it was like his goal for some reason to get Mickey and the others evicted from the House of Mouse. which never made any sense to me. But the concept of the movie is that, all the villains like team up, and like I think they're being like led by like Jafar or something, and like they take over the House of Mouse for like one night. And then, like, at the end of the episode, or at the end of the movie, it's just, like, Mickey, like, has, like, his sorcerer hat on, and he's turned into Sorcerer Mickey, and he tries to defeat Jafar. And, like, Aladdin just shows up with the lamp and, like, throws him the lamp. Here, use, Jafar's lamp, and then they trap Jafar in the lamp, and then, like, all the villains leave. I might do a video about that at some point, just because it was a fun movie. But it was just fun. But, it was just this fun concept of, like, just, like, all of these, all the Toons in Toontown on, come to Main Street, and they go to the House of Mouse. And, like, we see, I think there's references to almost every single Disney movie that came out between, like, the original, like, Mickey Mouse cartoons all the way up through, I think it was Atlantis, I think was, like, the most recent, Disney movie that had come out at that point in time by the end of the show. And like they had like some web stuff that they had done a little bit later on that had, I think, like Lilo and Stitch involved, and had, I think, like a Tarzan and like some other miscellaneous stuff in it. But for the most part, it was like, these main, pretty much anything from like, Snow White all the way up through, I believe, Atlantis was there. All the different Disney princesses make cameo appearance. We have Cinderella, we have Snow White, we got Sleeping Beauty, Princess Aurora, we've got Ariel in there, we had Mulan have several appearances, we have Belle, Megara shows up with Hercules. And like the thing that I liked a lot was just like we get all these different random interactions between characters. Because I know at one point there was like Maleficent wants to go on a date, or Maleficent wants to find like, I don't know, like her romantic interest, and she goes on a date with like all these different villains, like Jafar and Hook, and I think she like just like all these other ones. She ends up like with Hades at the end of it, and like they attempt to go on a date, and I don't think it goes very well. But then that loops around, because I don't know if it was intentional, but that loops around because in Disney's Descendants, Mal is the daughter of Maleficent and Hades, so it's just like this fun like connective tissue. And like you see like Cruella is there, and like they're still like their same type of characters, but they're a bit less intense. And it's just like, you see the princesses interact with each other and everything. And I know that they had a lot of the people that had voiced them. Like I know that Jodie Benson came back and like voiced Ariel for like the different spots that Ariel pops up in, and that Paige O'Hara, who voiced Belle, came back and voiced Belle. And Robbie Benson came in and voiced Beast for like the several appearances that they make. And like, yeah, it's like if the actors were still alive and still able to do like the voice range, they had them come in a lot to just voice the different characters. And other than that, for like the ones who had died or just couldn't do the voices anymore, they, had like new ones cast that came in and like played them. Which was just fun, because it's just fun to see all these different Disney characters interact with each other, which is, I think, one of the reasons why I love Who Framed Roger Rabbit so much, which the show is kind of like a Who Framed Roger Rabbit type of a thing as well, because it's like all these different things in Toontown all interacting with each other. You don't see any like real people in the show, but you see like all these different toons interacting with each other like you see in Who Framed Roger Rabbit. And then at the moment we now have kind of like the spiritual successor to Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which is of course Chip and Dale and the Rescue Rangers, that they now have out on Disney Plus, where, it's like the human world, but there's like all these tunes and everything, and they all intermix with everything. And like, yeah, there were the movies, and then like all these side characters and everything, and I just love that. And, I have watched Chip and Dale and the Rescue Rangers from the new, and I also watched like the original series when they were out, obviously. But like, it was just so, like, it's this whole concept of like this spiritual successor to it that I just loved. And like, it was just, I just loved House of Mouse. It was just so fun for the way that the characters interacted with each other. And like they had like comic books and shows that came out of it as well. But like, as I mentioned, like, yeah, the main characters were of course Mickey, who is, Mickey, Mickey is like the one that's like the host of the club, and, Minnie's running everything behind the scenes. As I mentioned, Goofy is the waiter, which is just funny. And there's like so many great quotes that come out of this one, like this one that I did for Goofy.
Hi, I'm Waiter, and I'll be your Goofy tonight. Then let me tell you our specials. We have bed knobs and fish sticks, Cruella de veal, peg leg pizza, never never lamb, stromboli ravioli, and polka hummus.
And then one of the other side characters that they have is they have this gossip columnist that works there, and she's Clarabelle Cow, and she's like a character that's been around and kind of part of Mickey's gang, but not as prominent as the other ones. Sometimes they have her have like a weird romantic relationship with Goofy at times, and like some of the cartoons, but it's not like major. But like she's like the town gossip and everything, and like she'll have like this moment where she like sits up on stage and like she'll ramble through like this whole like gossip thing about like different characters, and like here's one of the ones that she did, and it's just funny.
Doping may leave the Seven Dwarfs to pursue more dramatic roles. Next, over at Lady and the Tramps, Tramp came home late and caused a bit of a dogfight between him and Lady.
And it was just like, it's this whole atmosphere around the club of just like all the characters getting along with each other for the most part. Yeah, there's like, if Sleeping Beauty's there, Maleficent isn't always happy, or like some combination of the two, or, the Wicked Queen showed up, and, or like, the evil queen showed up, and now Sleeping Beauty has to worry about getting an apple or something like that. It's just fun stuff. And it was just a really fun show, and I really want Disney Plus to put it on Disney Plus, because I'd love to get to watch it again. The quality of animation wouldn't necessarily hold up as well as like some of the other stuff, but they have the Adventures of Hercules on there. They have like the Aladdin's Adventures. They have the Little Mermaid series, the side series that they had. Those are all on there, and I'm just like, please put House of Mouse there. Let's see, what are the other ones that they have in the show? As I mentioned, like Max is like the valet for all the parking and everything. So we get all these weird things of everybody coming in like their weird cars or something like that. Like Ursula arrives in like a wave that has a door on it, and like all this other random stuff. Like Max has to like park it and everything. And I remember that there were like 2 episodes at least that like specifically focused on Max. One of them was like Max is like trying to get his like I would think he has like his driver's license or something like that, but he's like trying to prove that he has like the responsibility to be able to take care of his own car, because he's like, either he saved up money and he's going to get his own car, or he's going to like ask Goofy if he can like use the money that he has saved up from working at the club to get his own car. And like, it's just this funny episode because it's just like the rest of the gang are trying to help Goofy help Max convince Goofy to get him a car. And it doesn't end well. He ends up getting like his own parking spot, but like it's just weird. And then like the other one is like Max has a date, which is coming off of the Goofy movie, because it's like the older version of Max. And like Max has his date that is, I want to say I can never remember the name of like Max's love interest in that movie. But like she's there, and they go on, the gang is trying to help Max have a really good date, and it's just not going well. Because it's just like I know Mickey Mouse, and like I work here, but he's not trying to like make them impress her, but he's just like trying to just have like a nice date with her, and it just doesn't go well. One of the other ones that they have there is they have Horace Horsecollar, who's just another one of like Mickey's gang from the past, and he's like the media guy up in the booth, like getting the cartoons rolling and everything. They have the penguin waiters from Mary Poppins are like the waiters that run around and like work with Goofy and everything, and that's just funny. Goofy's actually a rather good waiter in the series, which is fun. And then, as I mentioned, they have Huey, Dewey, and Louie there. And they are like the Quack Street Boys, or the Splashing Pumpkins, like just funny alternate band names that they would have. And like they would be like parodies of like the Backstreet Boys and Smashing Pumpkins. And like I remember there was like a whole episode that was like the boys getting into an argument about like who was like the leader of the band, and like they kind of broke up, and then at the end of it they come back together, which is just funny. There was also like another whole side episode where like Donald ends up getting left in charge of the club because Pete stole all of their cartoons, and Mickey and Goofy and Minnie have to go and like make a new cartoon. on the spot, and it's funny. And then like by the end of it, it's just like Donald like almost like ruined the club, but they saved it, and then like they got their cartoons back from Pete, which is just funny. Yeah, as I mentioned, you know, Pete is kind of like the main antagonist throughout the course of the series. He, you know, for some reason, he's like the landlord, and he keeps attempting to close down the club because he just gains personal gain, I guess, by like sabotaging the show through various means, which makes no sense because as long as, you know, as long as the club is running, Pete, you get money. So I don't know what's wrong with this picture here. I guess it's just Pete being an idiot and trying to sabotage himself in the long run. Because I remember at one point he like has like some deal in the contract that lets him like host a show one night, and like nobody shows up that night, so they have to like put fake cardboard cutouts all around the audience, and he thinks everybody loves him, and then he goes to make his own nightclub, and it doesn't work. But like, you know, the way that they keep the club going is like there's the whole "as long as the show goes on" clause, but that's just funny. You know, it's just really funny to see a lot of this, and like some of the other side characters was like they have like the magic mirror from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, like in the lobby of House of Mouse. And like, you know, the guests can talk to it or whatever. And then one of the other ones is they had a character that was Mike, that was just this, you know, Mickey's on stage microphone or whatever that would like introduce Mickey and like in between the cartoons and everything. And he was just like this talking microphone, and he would do like these different ads for like different, you know, like he would make announcements and everything like that, like these different sponsors for the different episodes. One of them was this really good one that was for Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo. What was it? Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo, motor services or something like that. Here's what it is.
Transportation for the House of Mouse, courtesy of Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo Limo Service. You'll have a ball in one of our magically mobile vegetables. The classic pumpkin, the luxury town gourd, and the extravagant stretch watermelon. Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo. Home by midnight or the ride is free. Some limos may contain seeds.
I mean, that was what this whole show was. This whole show was just like the ability for the characters to have puns all over the place. Just everywhere. Puns here, puns there, weird interactions. I swear to God, at one point I thought this show was a hallucination because I couldn't find it anywhere. And then I'm just like, why would I have hallucinated that? And then I'm like, oh yeah, my brain and Disney. And then it's just like, no, it's real. It's just, they don't have it up on, you know, Disney Plus yet. And like, I'm just like, why? It's so fun. Just like seeing all this interaction with the different characters. And like Chip and Dale pop up in the, you know, Chip and Dale and the Rescue Rangers pop up in it a few times. You know, it's just like all these cameos that they have in the show, and it's great. And I went through a lot of them when I was doing my, when I was doing the different Disney movies and everything like that. I went through a lot of the different ones that popped up in the show. As like side cameos with like the princesses or the other villains or whatever. But I remember the Chip and Dale one, or one of the Chip and Dale ones that they had for like a cameo was it was like ladies' night at the club, so it's just like Mickey and Donald and Goofy got like kicked out, and like Minnie and Daisy were in charge, and I think Pluto was still allowed in the club, but like all the other guys had been kicked out, and it was like a lot of the females from like the princesses and like even like the villainesses like in the movies were like in the show in the club, but all the guys were kicked out. And then like at the end of it, there was like this joke that I love that they put in there because it was Mickey and, or like, I don't remember if it was like Donald and Mickey and Goofy like kept trying to break into the club. I don't remember off the top of my head, but like, you know, I don't remember what it was, but it's like somehow the joke got set up that like, Chip and Dale show up and like they walk into the club and like Mickey and, or like Minnie and Daisy are fine with it, and they're like, well, they're the Chip and Dale dancers, which I'm just like, because like if you're a kid, you don't know who the Chip and Dale dancers are. Or if you do, I don't know about your childhood, but you know, and then like when you're an adult, you see that, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe they put that into a Disney show. in regards to the Chip and Dale dancers, which is just funny. And like they even had like the little collars and like the little, the cuffs on, which was just funny when they walked into the club. But there were just so many fun things that they put in this show that I really wish that they would put the show back on Disney, put the show on Disney Plus. I would love it if they did like a continuation of the show, because it was just like this, there's the whole joke of like, well, the Avengers was, Marvel's Disney's most ambitious crossover event. I'm like, I can think of a pretty dang good ambitious crossover event already in regards to the all these different characters interacting with each other. Which, I mean, like they did that with Kingdom Hearts too, to a degree, but it wasn't on like this scale of like just like everybody lives in the same area. It was still fun. I still loved Kingdom Hearts, and I've got some Kingdom Hearts videos I'm going to do, but it's just like this whole side thing of just like all these characters interacting with each other. And then like one of the other ones was, one of the things in the show was that they had like this basement in the House of Mouse, like this prop cellar or something like that. That was just like, it was literally the whole concept of it's bigger on the inside. And like all throughout the place is just like all these different props and magical objects and other things from like so many different Disney movies. I tried finding pictures. I couldn't find any. And there's like all these different props from like these different, classic Disney movies. Like apparently Minnie is the only one that can find her way around down there, which is just hilarious. And like at some point, like Minnie goes down there to try to find a really good birthday gift for Mickey. And then, Mickey gets really worried about her. So him and Donald and Goofy go down to try to find her. And like they end up they get lost, and then Minnie finds them. And then she like gives Mickey the birthday gift that she found. I don't remember what it was. But, it's just like all this funny stuff that they do in the show that it's just really fun to watch for like these different interactions with the characters. And the last note that I'm going to end on for this one is one of the things that they had on the show a lot was, so two more things. They also had like Ludwig von Drake show up a lot, who was like the scientist guy that's like connected to like Scrooge, that he would show up and like try to prove magic wrong or whatever, explain things. And like Mickey kind of liked it when he showed up and kind of didn't. It just depended, but he would like pop up every now and then. But the other one was at one point I know that Jiminy Cricket was on there. And like Jiminy Cricket had like several cameos in different episodes, and like there was like a whole episode based around like him and Pinocchio and everything. And what happens is at one point, like, and it's the end quote for this episode or for this video, but at one point he goes on this really long like advice speech about like just like all these different Disney characters, and it's just really funny for just like how like the writers of these shows just like how many puns can we work into this and how funny can we make it. And like one of the bits was like, maybe you'll fall in love, maybe you won't. Maybe you'll have puppies. Maybe you won't. It's just like all these different funny jokes that they worked into the show. Don't sell your voice just so you can go on a date with a guy. Like all this other, great stuff. Like, if your first name is Sleeping and your last name is Beauty, maybe you should stay away from spindles and buy a sewing machine instead. And just like all this other stuff that they just put into the show that like, that's never going to pop up in like the actual movies. But here it's fine because, here it's fine because there's like everything interacting with each other. And I think one of my favorite jokes that they ever put into the movie and then into the show, and then that'll be the last bit, and then you'll get the really long Jiminy Cricket quote. So I think one of my favorite things that they did in the show, and I don't remember if this was just like in the first episode or just one of the other various episodes, but at some point during one of Pete's many harebrained schemes to try to shut down the club, at the end of the show, he gets like launched out of the House of Mouse and like lands on the cement. And he ends up by, there was a show that was on at the same time that was called Pepper Ann, which was about like this, teenage girl and everything. Like her and her mom were there on the street, getting ready to like cross the street. And because like they brought in like the different Disney shows too as well. I don't think they ever had, I don't remember if like Kim Possible and that one crossed over at any point in time, but like they had like that stuff as well. But like Pete lands next to them, like just like smoldering or whatever, and like Pepper Ann's mom just goes, don't touch the villain deer, and then like walks across the street, and then like I think Pepper Ann just follows her, which is just like, okay, that's funny. Yeah, but I really loved this show, and I really would love them to put it back up, put it on Disney Plus, because I would most definitely just sit and like binge the episodes, like yay, because it's just like so many fun jokes that I really, really loved, and just like the interactions and like all that stuff was just really fun. And I would love it if they did like a sequel series to it. Although admittedly not with the current animation designs they have for them. I wish that they would go back to like that style that they had for the show. That would be fun. Also, I would love it if they just did like an animated Kingdom Hearts series, which I think I heard about at some point in time, that they might do like an anime version of Kingdom Hearts. So I'm like, I'm fine with this as long as you know, voices would be good. So yeah, that's what I have for this one. Yeah, the really long quote from Jiminy Cricket with his advice will be the end quote on this one. So I thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you have memories of the House of Mouse, you know, put them here, or if you just want to go and see some of what the House of Mouse was like, I'm pretty sure that you can find like some clips online that are just kind of funny. So thanks for watching. I hope that you enjoyed the video, and I hope that you have a nice rest of your day. And since this is going up on the 4th of July, happy 4th of July. Bye!
Ladies and gentlemen of the House of Mouse, don't be a fool. No sirree. Here taught to live to be 103. Always let your conscience be your guide. I will demonstrate this advice now. Savor your youth and beauty, because wicked queens, mean stepsisters, and evil witches will try to steal them from you every time. That reminds me, don't eat apples unless you know where they come from. Avoid anyone that has a fiendish cackle, a sinister smile, or a diabolical glare, not necessarily in that order. Never sell your voice to a giant sea witch just because you have a crush on some guy. It's just not worth it. When selecting footwear for a big dance, go ahead and write your name in your shoes. There's nothing to see in the elephant graveyard. End of story. If your first name is Sleeping and your last name is Beauty, don't use a spinning wheel. Go out and buy a sewing machine. And hey, don't steal bread. Maybe you'll meet someone special. Maybe you won't. Maybe you'll have puppies. Maybe you won't. Maybe you'll join the circus and learn to fly. Live in the jungle once, but leave before it makes you hard. Live in the forest once, but leave before it makes you soft. Treat your elders with respect, and don't be fooled by bad advice. If a guy named Foul Fellow invites you to a place called Pleasure Island, don't go. I mean, he's got the word foul right in his name. But trust me on the conscience thing.